Don't get it. So I really don't look forward to April Fool's Day. But today, we're really all about it. We're all about Earth Day. And today, I just read on my way over here, well, I looked at my email, and today is Stop Food Waste Day. Who knew there was a day?
It should be every day.
It should be every day, just like Earth Day should be every day. You're right. And so normally when we talk, or when I talk, I'm talking about food and whole food plant-based diet, and why it's so good for our health and why we should do it. And so today I'm still talking about that, but I'm talking about why it's good for our earth. That's where we're going with it today. So I'll just read you now so I can put my phone down, that on Stop Food Waste Day, they have 5 tips to stop food waste. One, which I thought was interesting, is value your food. When you place a higher value on food, you're less likely to waste it. Do you find that to be true?
Mm-hmm. Well, I grew up during World War II. I was a child, and everyone lived like that.
Right. Yeah, I feel like that too. Even I guess my parents grew up in that era, and so we always tried not to waste. But I think for me, if it costs a lot of money, I really try not to waste it. But I think the cost of food is even beyond just what you paid out in dollars. It's also the cost of, they grew it, somebody got paid to pick it, somebody got paid to get it ready for travel, somebody drove it, somebody at the store unpacked it.
The water
and the water for all of those things, the water and fuel. So you really waste a lot when you waste food. So we do want to put a value on it. Another thing was cut portions. They say large portions at home and restaurants are a big culprit in food waste. So being sure to save things, or if you're at a restaurant, get things to go, or start with a smaller portion. A senior plate or the lunch size portion to save on this. Yeah, so talk to your servers. And what were you saying?
We share meals.
Share meals. See, that's perfect.
Because overserve.
They do. And kind of if they didn't, you'd think, oh, this didn't have this was a lot of money for very little food. So they kind of have to. Right. Uh-huh.
And she's got it.
So she brings her own to-go container.
We do that.
You do that too.
We always go with two containers, one for each of us.
That is so smart. And I've heard you guys say that, and I still haven't done it. So I need to start that. Okay. I need to set a goal today. Oh, definitely. There's hungry children somewhere. Yep. Yeah.
You don't want to suggest to your parents that you send them the food.
My mom does tell a story of how I did that once. I said, oh, just let's send it to them then. Yeah. I probably, yeah. That was back when that was okay.
Yeah.
Number 3 on my little list is lose perfection principle. So don't toss food just because it isn't pretty. So, yes. The food bank, okay.
She's surprised when they get the produce.
They throw it away like for an onion if it's not perfect.
Because
right.
They say, yeah, you can take that one home because that was.
Oh, and that's sad. Especially, I guess it depends on what you're going to do with it, but onion is going to get chopped up anyway. Okay. So let's not be perfect if we can help it. Plan better. is number 4. So do an inventory and create a shopping list to reduce overbuying. So that's important to do, I think. I love to have a list. I like to always know what's in my pantry. I know not everybody's into that, but you go look in your pantry before you go to your grocery store so you don't overbuy. And then use leftovers. Save that uneaten food for later, or you can even recycle things into other things. You know, that chili I made for dinner last night, I could put that in a burrito tonight. So, or I can freeze it for later, or I can have it at lunch. So I thought those were just kind of fun tips on our Stop Food Waste Day, which I didn't even know was a thing. Okay, so let's get going. Oh, I put hot off the press, but this was really hot off the press a couple years ago. So sorry. Environmental impact of 2 plant-based diets that were the same, equal in calories and equal in amounts of protein. And they compared the vegan diet to the Mediterranean diet. And what they found was that the Mediterranean diet, which only uses about 10% of animal products, had more impact on the environment than a vegan diet, had 44% less impact on the environment. And that's because there's no animal usage. And then another study found that meat-heavy diets produce about 3 kilograms of carbon per 1,000 calories. Vegans are only 0.7. So that's your carbon footprint. So a whole food plant-based diet would affect the environment less. That was the bottom line on that study. So it's investment. We want to invest in our planet. Happy Earth Day. So what they say are the 5 R's. That's what we're going to go over today, which I'll show you in just a second. But what we could do for our Earth are these 5 R's. I'll show you. But shop local. Do you feel like you shop local? Or grow your own. I think I try to shop local too, but then sometimes, you know, you're in Costco and that's such a good deal. I don't know. I'm so cheap.
Frugal.
Yeah, it's really cheap, but yes, eating what's in season. So that's going to help. You're going to find that locally. You're going to find that at your farmers markets. I mean, we can get foods year round nowadays, but they come from Chile or Peru or various places. So there's a big carbon footprint on those because they have to get flown here. So trying to buy just what's in season. Did you have your hand
I
up?
was gonna say that, having stuff flown in,
Mm-hmm.
which is only allowed for coffee.
Oh, you think that's all right if it's coffee? Okay, I like that. We can waste less food, and we'll talk about ways to do that today. You could try to go more, if you're not meatless already, you could try meatless. Like at our house, we do meatless Monday. So 1 day a week, we could go meatless and work up to like every day being meatless. And then follow like a climate friendly eating style, which would be a whole food plant-based diet basically, but I think I'll have a slide on that. So these are things we can do for our earth, for our environment. And you got to think about it. This is what we're doing for our kids and our kids' kids, because we think, oh, I'll be okay now, but will our grandkids be okay? I don't know. So here's those 5 R's. Refuse, reduce, reuse, recycle, and rot. By rot, I'm meaning compost. So don't think, oh, that sounds disgusting. I'm meaning composting. I don't know if I have a slide on refuse. No, I don't. Okay, so what does it mean by refuse? Same for Earth. Yes.
Desserts at restaurants,
Oh,
they come around.
desserts.
Desserts for you tonight? You all say, we just want to hear them.
Uh-huh. So we can just hear them. We can live vicariously by hearing them.
Beautiful terms,
Uh-huh.
but no, as your diabetic.
Well, we could refuse that. That's true. So we could refuse by not eating all the food that's offered. Okay, what else?
Like if you offer me some squash in the garden and I don't like squash,
Yes.
I just say, oh no, thank you.
Okay. Exactly. So when people, especially when there's abundance of lemons or zucchini or all those things, and people offer that to you, don't take it unless you're really going to use it. You're absolutely right. That's a really good one.
Bring my numbers.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, I think we all appreciate the lemons. Okay, anything else we could refuse? Thinking of Earth, not necessarily the food. When you get takeout and they want to give you the plastic silverware and the napkins and all that, we could refuse that. Yeah, they always give a whole stack of them. You're right. Some people, and I've never been nervy enough to do this, will bring their own silverware to a restaurant. So that yeah, people do.
Why?
So that you don't contribute to having one more thing they need to wash. You know, I've never, people who are true zero wasters, that's what they do. Yeah, but probably not as well.
Some restaurants have moved to plastic flatware,
Yes.
and that's awful to eat. So I know, there are some restaurants where if we're going there,
Uh-huh.
we'll bring the flatware because there is such a thing as civilization,
So I totally agree. I don't like to eat with a plastic fork either.
you know?
And when I worked, I always had my little fork in my lunch bag, and other people would just always use the plastic fork, and I could never understand why. You hate stabbing your salad with a plastic fork. They break, yeah. Uh-huh. A little time. There we go. Paul's really good about it.
You know, my sister belongs to basket and group up in the Pacific Northwest, and the native tribes up there, they have a little pouch. We were invited to dinner, we brought your own food.
You brought your own?
Utensils,
Uh-huh.
we carried them in the pouch. In sport,
Yeah.
but that was expected, that you came, you ride with your own utensils.
Oh, that's cool. So in case you didn't hear that out there in Zoom land, Kevin says up in the Pacific Northwest, sometimes when you're invited somewhere, people bring their own. It's in a little string around their neck and they have their own little utensils. I like that. See, and that's part of the culture. It's easier to do. Yeah.
Yeah, bring your own napkin too.
You could bring your own napkin. You're right. You're right.
Especially in those paper napkin.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. You could bring your own napkin.
And then refuse.
And yeah, because it only works if you refuse the paper too. You're right.
We had from our camping and backpacking days, we got. That are for it's food.
Oh, sure.
And wrap it up.
Oh, that's good. So you have your own utensil set up. Okay, so we could refuse. That starts off everything. We could reduce, meaning we're reducing the things that we throw away. So this isn't just about food, as we all know, right? We could reduce our usage of things. We can reduce some of the foods we buy. What have you been reducing lately? Anybody?
Plastic.
You've been what?
Plastic.
Plastic. That's right. I hear you talk about that. So getting rid of the plastic. Okay, that's very good. All right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
It is.
I've started putting a plate over the top of the bowl instead of like saran wrap.
So that's a great idea. So a plate over your bowl instead of using saran wrap. Absolutely. Reusing the shopping bags. Absolutely. Yeah, that's good. So now we're not taking paper or plastic. We don't care. We bring our own. Yeah, I like that. Anything else? I like the plastic.
I stopped buying any kind of most produce at Trader Joe's because so much of it is in the plastic containers.
Yes, at Trader Joe's, they do use those clamshells a lot.
I just don't buy it.
Mm-hmm.
Go where I can get it.
That's true. And you know, I have noticed, I think it's a law now that all the stores have to use those recyclable bags in the produce section. Have you noticed that?
Yeah.
And they're compostable.
Line-
Oh,
Goes in clean waste.
okay, that's good. So well, I'll talk about that when I get down to rot. But yeah, I've noticed that that's the law now. And some of the stores have put little signs up because people must be complaining about them. And they say, sorry, this is the law now. We have to use these.
It's a secret to opening them.
They're-
Get your fingers a little wet.
Yeah, your fingers have to get wet to open them. True.
This is a good idea.
Yeah,
Is that right?
that's true. This is the law.
Told us to.
Yeah. That's a good point. They'd say this is for our environment. Okay, so what about reuse? What can we reuse? Hello there.
Plastic bags.
We can reuse plastic bags, our little to-go containers, absolutely. Now it's our storage.
This is probably kind of silly, but I buy the thicker paper towels, and then I keep it on the counter for the moment. To use it,
Yes,
and then when it's not, and then I use it to dry the dog fish at the end.
uh-huh.
You know,
So you get a lot of use out of it.
I use it for myself, and then I put it down for the dogs.
Uh-huh.
And then for cleaning the floor, right, spill some. And then it goes in the.
So,
I get white paper, white paper towels, so sometimes I just put them in the compost.
uh-huh.
I think they said paper towels can go in there.
I think they can go in there.
A piece of bottom.
That's true. I've quit using paper towels. It's taken a few years to finally wean us off, but now we don't buy them, so they're not even there. I use those you can buy the cloth paper towels, and then I throw them in the wash. Cut up old towels and use those, absolutely. Yeah, people kind of freak out when they come over and they'll say, well, where are the paper towels? Say, we don't have any. No, use cloth napkins too. And it's taken years for us to get to this stage. Like it's been a few years ago, like in January, we said, okay, we're going to switch to cloth napkins. And it took a while. But now, yeah, we don't have any napkins. In fact, back when I did that, I still have the bag of napkins that we had bought that we hadn't gotten through. So we still have that bag in the cupboard. And then people say, well, now you're going to have to just wash things more. And it's true, you do have to wash them, but I bet I don't get more than an extra quarter wash load, thank you, a quarter load a week from my extra stuff. Okay, then we got recycle. So we all know about recycle, right? And I think in Sacramento County, you do a really good job. You have lots of, they really promote it. I live in Placer County, and we're one big bin. And that means that we throw everything in the garbage and they sort it out in a secret place. I do hope. They have videos that show they do. So I really hope they do. The trouble with it though is when I'm like in Sacramento County or at somebody's house, I don't remember what goes where in the recycle. When I come here, I don't remember because we're one big bin. But one big bin is nice.
Nice.
Right. Yeah, you're right. Personal responsibility by dividing and getting used to that. You're right.
See, but I've lived in Davis forever. And
Yes.
you can't throw anything away without thinking about where does it go.
Right. Yes.
Makes you mindful about throwing
You
things
bet it does. You bet it does.
Yeah. Okay, so our last R is rot. And that is basically composting. So if we put together recycle and rot, the EPA says that only 8.7% of plastics are really recycled. So we want to focus on the refusing or reducing or repurposing things. Like you get one of those and you use it for a long, long time. And maybe it's a little to-go container in case you don't see it out there. And so you keep reusing it for your own, and then eventually maybe that's not so great. And now you use it maybe to hold paint when you're painting or something. You just keep using it for various things. And rotting is a big deal now because we find that food waste, when it goes to the dump, it just sits there and produces methane, which is something that destroys our ozone layer. So we don't want to have it go to the dump. We want to rot it ourselves. Although I know in Sacramento, you have a greens waste bin, right? Is that how you guys do it?
Yeah.
And so everything goes in there. And in Davis, greens waste bin. So
Does, the green waste process, the composting process somehow eliminate methane? Or is it just that you're getting that?
no, I feel like it does eliminate. Do you know, John? I think it does
Well,
eliminate it.
It's aerobic, there's gonna be some methane, but it's a different chemical reaction.
A different
And
reaction.
I don't know. I know when I had a home one, I relied a lot on worms.
Right. I do too.
And I don't know how the city has set it up. They used to have long bunkers of compost, and they had a machine that would fork it and fill it with air every periodically to stir it,
Right.
to keep it from igniting. But it I'm sure they've got something like that going, but
Right.
I haven't seen what they're doing.
So yeah, I think it's great that they allow that for you to put that in the greens bin, but you can do it at home too. So, and you don't need a fancy composter. I just have an old wheelbarrow, and my husband put holes in the bottom for me, and I just throw everything in there. So you mix your food waste with leaves and grass clippings and things, because you do want to have a combination of those, a ratio. And then worms developed. I didn't put worms in there, but now there's tons of worms in there. And then we turn it every once in a while. And that was my goal this year, was to make sure I really threw everything in there, because I've been kind of lazy about it. Or it's cold and rainy out, so I don't want to go throw it out there. And so I've been really working on that this year, to throw everything in. And then you end up with this nice soil that you can use for your garden.
So the Yolo County landfill actually has a very elaborate, and I'm sure almost every dump does, system of collecting the methane and putting it in pipes, and
They do?
yeah, yeah.
Oh.
They
Okay.
run it into the fire.
Well, they have a whole elaborate system where the methane gets piped somewhere,
Uh-huh.
and then it goes wherever you do with methane. I mean, people do use methane for fuel or something.
Run the student buses.
Yeah, yeah.
Really?
I don't know really, but that's, student buses are all on natural gas now.
Oh, okay.
And I bet you every dump does that.
I'm sure.
believe it, so.
Yeah. Right.
Well, it's kind of a safety risk if you don't.
It can burn, right?
So going to the dump was one of the most fascinating field trips in fifth grade. Did you do that with one of your kids ever? Yeah, it was just fascinating. And all the birds.
You know, I love going to the dump.
I did too.
My
Dad would take us.
Oh, it's so fun to like back your truck up and just throw stuff into that bin and not care about breaking or anything, and just toss it all in there. I love the dump. Yeah.
You and Dave, that's what you do in Yolo County. Feed off the seagulls, so.
Uh-huh. Okay, so we can rot our food. You can do it at home. I know a lot of times those little worms, people do it even under their kitchen sink in just a little plastic container. And if you have the right mixture of your food to your browns and greens, like your leaves and your grass, it never smells, which is weird. But yeah, mine never smells. So we could also shop local, because then as we talked about, that reduces our carbon footprint, because now the stuff had shorter way to get to you. So use the farmer's market would be the most direct, well, growing it in your yard would be the most direct. And then going to the farmer's market, going to your local stores, buying things that are in season so they haven't been shipped, trying to buy things that are maybe only from California or only from your local area. Some stores, I know like the co-op is so good about saying where everything comes from. My store isn't as good about that. I have to read on the labels. So thinking about we're going to try to eat what's in season. What is in season right now? What are you having? What are you buying? Brussels sprouts?
I was making that.
I love the Brussels sprout.
My mom used to always love the season change, something new.
I love that too. Yeah.
Farmers market,
Yes, it does. Which market do you go to?
one in the spring.
On Sunday? Yeah, that's a good one. I know asparagus, you can also tell when things are on sale. So asparagus is on sale right now. So we've been going through a lot of asparagus. What else you getting?
Can you get mushrooms all year long?
Yes,
Yeah, you can.
from Captain Bay.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
because they grow them in these special places.
Yeah, you're right.
But you can get wild picked.
Chard and lettuce, wild picked mushrooms.
Yeah, yeah. They are seasonal. You know, if you get fresh, which is very expensive. If you get fresh, and seasonal, but they can kill anything fresh, so I'm getting for them.
Okay.
The strawberries, that's the thing I look forward to.
Yeah.
Is when the strawberries arrive, the first wave is beginning to hit now.
I know. I love the strawberry season too. In Placer County, we have a little strawberry stand on almost every corner. And I just noticed one that where I get some, there's little red, I can see the little red strawberries on some of those plants. So I bet they'll be open in a couple weeks. Yeah, I love strawberries.
Can you get organics?
You know,
It's hard.
you can, but at these little stands, they're not organic. Yeah. So lots of greens. I know I'm still in my winter garden are all my greens. Peas are big, or think around Easter time, people are having peas, snap peas, fava beans are big this time of year. There's your mushrooms, cabbage. I mean, carrots that we get year round. Are they seasonal?
Oh, they are.
They show up and disappear from the farmers market.
Oh, okay. All right.
But they store them, like, you know, you could,
True.
in the olden days, store them in your root zone.
That's right. Yeah. They last a long time.
Yes.
You can still eat a bendy carrot. And that's actually a really good point. When things are a little wilty or a little bendy, throw them in a soup or stew. That's a very good point. So 40% of the food in our country is never eaten. So think about the cost of that. Not only did you waste money on buying that food, but of the cost of picking it and driving it and flying it and all those things we do to get that food into our fridge is money down the drain. So try to use all parts of the food. And you know, today our theme was broccoli stems because people think they can't eat the broccoli stem, but they are so good. You're right. And so Linda went to pick up broccoli for our broccoli stem soup. And she asked, because nowadays you buy the crown, you don't buy the whole thing at the grocery store. And she asked what they do with it. And they said they just throw it away. They just cut the stalks off and throw them away, which is the saddest thing I've ever heard. So at home, we can use them. I feel like somebody is collecting all them and making broccoli slaw. So somebody must be using them, but we can use all parts. You can use the little tree part. You can use the stem part. On carrots, you can use the carrots. You can use the carrot tops. You can use radish tops.
I eat that.
No, but I just was reading about it last night. Tell me, how are radish tops? It was? I saw a radish top like pesto recipe when I was looking for how to use all your food. Did I see a hand? Beets, the greens.
With the greens. They usually take that off.
I know, so sad. And those are just a green. You're right. We can eat beet greens.
Have you eaten carrot tops
Have
before?
everyone tried the sweet potato leaves?
I never have.
So in the Philippines, when on my last vacation, they boiled it, just the leaves, and then they added tomatoes and onions and seasoning or whatever you want
Right.
to add. It doesn't tastes like kale.
Uh-huh.
It's like kale, like boiling kale. And it was the first thing that goes away from the table, like fighting over it.
Oh, so sweet potato leaves.
About it, and here they think it was poisonous.
Oh,
And so
Um,
I
People say that about tomato leaves too.
yeah.
Well, is it true?
They're edible.
So tomato leaves are
They
edible.
are edible and they're flavor.
Okay. And what about, has anybody eaten broccoli leaves? Not just the little ones that come on the stalk, but I'm talking about the ones on the
You
plant.
never see the plant.
Because I grew broccoli for the first time this year. And it's this big gorgeous plant. And then it has one stalk. And you cut that off and the end. So you have all these leaves. And I was too chicken. I was telling you, I was too chicken to try them. But I'm going to, maybe next year.
That's Velma. She'd say stuff.
Exactly. And that's what you see. Like with I was a radish top pesto that I saw. But you said you tasted them and they were disgusting.
Maybe, yeah, you know, like baby radish.
Well, maybe, but also it could be that this recipe might be good because they put oil in it and they put basil in it and covered up that. I'm not sure. But that's interesting. You brought up radishes. Carrot top pesto, you're right. I found several recipes for that. In my store, it's hard to find the carrot tops. You got to go to the farmer's market to really get those. We talked about accepting less than perfect produce. Think about what you're going to need it for. If you are going to cut it up and cook it, it doesn't have to be perfect looking. Let's see, we kind of already said this too. Make a shopping list, plan your meals, only get what you need before it'll turn bad. And you know, things do last a long time in your fridge if you store them properly. Eat in order of age. So first in, first out. So I do that with leftovers too. Like my husband will say, "What's for dinner tonight?" And I'll say, "Oh, we're gonna have this." He goes, "Oh, but I'd rather have that." I know, but in order of in and out, we got to have this tonight.
One thing about perfect produce,
Yes.
there is a law in California that you can't sell ugly produce.
There's a law that you can't sell ugly
Part of-
produce.
It's part of the agreement for the growers group.
Uh-huh.
So it's when you get local people who are not members of that thing, that they will have the ugly fruit somewhere and it has to be wrong size, ugly, bruised, ugly, whatever.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, in California, and that was something I found very strange when I got here.
Oh.
They set up a bunch of these organizations in the 60s
Uh-huh.
to raise the quality of food presented to the consumer.
Yeah.
And so you got perfect food.
Oh,
So
gosh, we do love perfect food. I'm afraid I do too, but I'm willing to go with ugly.
that's why you get your neighbor's peaches and your oranges and whatever, and
And they don't look nearly as good as those big ones at the Rayleigh's.
they are tree ripened or they're vine ripened. they're
Yes.
delicious and they're eccentric. as you
Yes.
Say, I'm living the good life.
You are right. You're right. Yes. They don't look beautiful doesn't mean they're not delicious.
It's, I think it's more corporate. It's a corporate agreement. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Do that and then you can charge more. All of it.
For the perfectness.
Yeah.
And when you have leftovers, wrap them up, store them, or freeze them. So, and you can freeze most anything. So another thing to help decrease waste is these expiration dates, or the dates that are stamped on our products. So they, just because it says best if used by or before a certain date, it doesn't mean you can't eat it beyond that date. And I am really guilty of this because I see that date and I don't want to eat it anymore up here in my head. But I've got to work, and I hear they're getting rid of some of the expiration dates because of this waste. So it says when the product will be at its best flavor or its best quality. It's not a safety date. There really, I don't think there are any safety dates. Sell by just tells the store that it's time to rotate that off the shelves. So it's not a safety date again. So you, if it says sell by and you have it in your fridge, you can still go ahead and eat it. If it says use by, again, that's just what they think it's going to be at its peak quality. Maybe it won't be as good. Maybe it'll be mushier, but it doesn't mean it's safety, except when it's infant formula. Do throw that away. Freeze by, it just says this should be frozen so that it'll stay at its peak quality. And so if you think you're not going to use something, go ahead and throw it in the freezer. So just beware, take those labels with a grain of salt. Are any of you obsessed about the dates on your packages like I am? No. Yeah. Yeah, it's hard. It's a hard lesson, I think.
Just a few months or a year?
Well, I think it depends on what it is. I think the quality will be visibly worse that you wouldn't want to eat it. But what do you think about canned goods? How long do those last?
They have stamps on the top,
They do.
but they will corrode and explode,
Okay.
especially like tomatoes.
Yeah.
But you're not, if you can't use, if you buy half a dozen cans of tomatoes.
And you can't use them in through the 3 years that's on that.
If you can't
Yeah.
use them in 3 years, or 5 years or whatever, then enjoy the explosion.
It'll just
You should've
explode.
bought one can and, be done with it. And
Then that's bad. That is a sign. You are right. So no bloating.
Repeat
No bloating cans.
And they say if there's dents. in
And the
can,
dents, yeah.
They have to qualify. Because some dents don't damage
The interior.
you could look and see.
the
Yeah. I am more leery if the can is dented. I am too.
Yeah, that's the one thing.
Uh-huh. Me too. I got this book a few years ago. I really liked it. It just talks about climate change, and it shows here in this little the left-hand column, natural causes of climate change, because we're all going to get climate change. There's always going to be climate change. But sometimes it's just changes in the Earth's orbit, solar variations, volcanoes, ocean currents, internal climate variability, meaning it's just we're always going to have some change. But what we want to really kind of focus on is these anthropogenic, thank you, which I had to write down. I had to look up environmental change caused by people. So these are the things that we can do something about. So fossil fuels, that's the transport, that's the industry and what it takes to get those products to us. Agriculture, animal digestion. So most of us know that like cows belch and they fart, and that destroys our ozone layer. Manure, soil management, and then land uses. And we hear a lot about this, especially nowadays with the fires in the wild forest, the forest fires, deforestation, upsetting grasslands and croplands. There was a great Netflix thing by a guy that said we need to rewild. I can't think of that guy's name. We need to rewild our world because we keep covering it with pavement or raising cattle and things that take up so much space instead of just feeding our people. So these are the things we can. Yes, exactly. Stop building homes and forests. You were right.
Good agriculture.
Right, that's true. So here's just a few things to show land use versus calories produced. These are just all to show it's better to be plant-based. So just a little spoiler alert. So 23% of our land is used for plant-based crops, but we need 77% for our livestock. That would be for meat and dairy. Yet the calories that those producers, 82% of our calories can come from 23% of the land. And only 18% of our calories come from what use 77% of the land. Does that make sense? So it's better to eat plants, bottom line. And how much water, as you mentioned earlier, Leanne, it costs to grow whole foods, fruits, vegetables, whole grains. It uses less water than to grow that beef or those hamburgers. So a 1/4 pound burger uses 425 gallons of water and enough energy to charge our phone for 6 months.
Oh, and the other thing about beef, is not just the land that they're on, but they're cutting down rainforests
True.
to create land cap.
Yeah, you're right.
And for
Yeah.
feed.
Uh-huh. Yeah, and then you're right. So then we grow crops just to feed the cattle.
Most of the soy grown is for cattle.
Yes.
So I didn't realize the nuts were so high on the,
I know.
the protein source. You substitute nuts for beef proteins.
Yeah, you're right.
Not-
No, nuts are pretty high. I mean, as far as the plant milks go, they always say that the almond milk is the most water intensive
Well, almonds,
use.
yeah.
Hmm. See, that would be a fun factory tour, is that Blue Diamond.
They have all this
Blue Diamond.
So um,
Dry almond ranches.
just that they're not irrigated.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right.
Do a minimal amount of water.
Uh-huh.
Instead of the flood type.
Yeah.
They went from flood irrigation to drip irrigation and planting cover crops in between the trees
Uh-huh.
instead of clearing it. So but that is the leading edge.
Mhm.
The majority still
Or
are
flooding.
going the cheap way.
Yeah.
But with the droughts coming in, you go drip irrigation or you rip out your trees and sell it.
It's not easy. It's not easier on the farmer. And here's greenhouse gas from common foods. So here we can see that lamb is like the worst. But when we get down to the plant proteins, it's much less greenhouse gas emissions. I'm kind of surprised milk is way down there. So, and the green is the total emissions, including production. And the blue is the processing, transport, and waste disposal. So let's go eat some lentils. And so I mentioned Meatless Monday earlier. Meatless Monday is just a campaign that they started to help reduce animal usage and help our planet. And so they say by swapping out plant-based foods for one of like meat and dairy just for 1 day a week for a year reduces climate change emissions more than eating locally every single day. So it has a pretty big impact. Just 1 day a week.
Seems to be a lot of pushback. Cattle industry.
Oh yeah. Oh, the cattle, and they have a lot of money. Oprah got in trouble for calling that out. You were right. You were right. So if we eat less meat and we eat more produce, That saves water and carbon emissions. It has less greenhouse gases. It's better for our health. So that's why we're always promoting a whole food plant-based diet. This is better for our heart, better for our diabetes, better for our blood pressure. And of course, the animals love it if we switch to a whole food plant-based diet too. So we talked about using all parts of the food. So there's this concept of scrappy cooking. One gal wrote a book, I might have it in here still, that she even calls it scrappy cooking. And it's recycling our scraps to make them into meals, things that we normally would just throw away. Like you've got citrus peels. If you add them to vinegar, now you got a little cleaner for your house. If you had vegetable scraps, those carrot peels and potato peels and those things, make a vegetable broth out of it. You can just keep those in your freezer until you have enough to make a vegetable broth.
And you can also stop peeling things.
You could stop peeling. You're absolutely right. We could not peel. You got potato peels, which you're right. Why did we even peel those potatoes? But she has a recipe for nachos using those. You got stale bread, make some croutons. You have apple peels, roast them, add a little cinnamon and sugar, put them in your oatmeal or on your nice cream. You got vegetable odds and ends, make a soup. You got that drawer in the fridge that everything is looking a little limp and bendy, make a soup. You got banana peels, oddly enough, you could make bacon out of that.
Really?
Bacon. I'll tell you, I think it's on my next slide. I did it once, yeah. I did it, and it was pretty good. Corn cobs, I mean, John taught me this. You can make a corn broth out of that. The empty corn cobs. So here's the banana peel bacon. You peel your super, super duper ripe bananas, and then you scrape that peel on the inside so that it ends up being pretty thin. You peel off that little white pithy kind of stuff, and now you just have this thing and you cook it in your fry pan. The reason why I haven't made it for us as a group is it's not the lowest sodium thing you've ever had in your life, because it's all about the marinade, which is soy sauce and a little oil. And so it's kind of high in those things. So that's why I haven't made it for us, but it actually tasted pretty decent. And my husband even liked it. It doesn't keep. Like we tried it the next day and it wasn't as good. You got to eat all that you have. But there's other things we can do to make this bacon, like tempeh or tofu or other things. Rice paper. You made some rice paper ones, right?
No, the students did.
Students did?
Yeah.
Yeah, I still have that recipe. Yeah, banana paper. You can also grow your own food from scraps. Has anybody done this? Linda's kind of an expert in this. I know she's grown some things. Yeah, on purpose. Yes.
Putting on stuff that was growing in.
Yeah, yeah. I've tried a few of these things and they do fine when I put them in a little jar with water. But then when I move them to my garden, I've never been successful. But like celery, you cut off that bottom root, you stick it in a little cup of water, it starts to grow really celery right out the middle. And then when I plant it, I've never been successful with that. But I think it's a thing that people are successful with. I know Linda grew a bunch of ginger. Avocado, I mean, we've all done this since we were little. You stick the toothpick in the avocado pit and stick it in a cup and it sprouts. So you have the eyes of your potatoes should be able to allow it to grow. Isn't that how you plant a potato? Can't you cut out the eyes of your potatoes? Uh-huh. Yeah.
I think it has to be organic, doesn't it? It can't go through additional processes.
Oh, that's a good point. Okay. See, I didn't even know that. Yeah.
I plant potatoes that I got from the store.
You have? Cut them? And you've gotten potatoes? Oh, so cute. So Linda, I was just telling about you're the expert in growing food from scratch.
I am.
Yeah. What about all that ginger you made? You grew all that ginger.
Some ginger.
Well, that's what I was saying. I can grow it in the jar, but then when I transfer it to like a garden, it does. I've never been successful. Oh, so this was my dish today. And I don't think I put the broccoli stems. We were trying to use those broccoli stems. So this was just a salad with some quinoa, and you roast the broccoli and you mix them all together. And I did the lemon tahini dressing. So how was that? I haven't tasted it really. Was it good?
Yeah.
Okay, good. And then Leanne made the broccoli stem soup. How was that? Good. So you,
Too spicy?
I thought it had a little kick to it.
It did.
I thought it was good.
I would have
Yeah.
peeled it.
You would have peeled the stems. See, that's the thing with broccoli stems. When you buy just the crown, it's high enough on the stem that you can just use them. But when you have the whole big long stem, you cut the woody part off and then it's better. Yeah, you're right. Okay.
But you know what the recipe actually said was to. As it said this, but I took it out to peel it and then throw that in too. Which seemed weird.
Throw the peel in too?
Yeah,
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Why
that's,
did you, I mean, why?
yeah, exactly.
that's when you get your high-speed blender, throw those peels in, make them a puree.
Yes,
Otherwise, you've got 3 toothpicks. in your soup.
you do. You're right. You are right. And so if we want to save our planet, every little thing counts. So think about anything you want to do. Are you going to maybe eat more plants, less animals? Or you want to recycle more? Or you guys are already recycling in your area? Reduce the use of things. I think that's a good thing that we can do. Reuse things, rot things, start a little compost if you don't have one. They are really easy. If I can do it, anybody can. Cook with scraps, maybe shop at the farmer's market so that you see what's in season. I think that's a great way to start too.
Fun trip to make.
It is. And you learn so much from the farmers.
That's another thing, when you see something new, you say, how do I cook this?
And they
will
tell
have a
you.
recipe.
You're right. The farmers are so helpful.
That's where I learned several things about squashes. when I
Mhm.
First moved here. Was, what do I do with this?
Yes.
Well, just, and they tell you about the things that their grandmother used to do. You have an amazing grandmother, because mine didn't know that.
I have a funny experience about figs. My neighbor's tree was hanging and all the figs are falling off. And
Right.
I thought, okay, let me just, instead of throwing them, put them in my plants to be a fertilizer.
Okay.
It actually killed my plants.
The figs killed your plants?
Yeah, worms started to come out, and I don't know if it's worms or there's some kind of bugs and actually ate the roots of my plant.
Oh, no. Uh-oh. So don't use figs as fertilizer. That's the bottom line. You should just eat those figs.
But it fell already, all like mushy and all that. Yeah, I just thought it could help my plants, but
Oh,
just an FYI, it didn't.
okay.
It rings a bell, does it? Aren't figs fertilized by a worm that comes inside the bloom?
raining.
Oh.
Say that again?
It's raining.
So it's raining somewhere.
It's
in
raining.
Sacramento.
It is. So, well, that would make sense. That's why she got all those worms.
Yep.
Interesting. Well, thank you for sharing that. We won't do that. Yes, sir.
It said the coffee grounds are good
Yes.
soil. And that,
Yeah.
Yes, they are. And you can often get them at Starbucks
Starbucks-
and eggshells. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Starbucks will give you grounds?
Yep.
Yeah.
Barrel.
Yeah, they do. Okay. I think we're done. So let's go out there and save the earth. So thank you, everybody, for coming today.